I'm in Germany, leaving today for Hamburg. Every person that I talk to in Berlin knows that Trump's a fascist. They don't even stop and stutter and think about it. It's like breathing. I was at a shop yesterday buying a cuckoo clock. And he asked me, why are so many Americans just acting like this isn't happening? He said, I talk to people from all over the world, and they cannot understand how stupid Americans are. And I said, it's propaganda. When Hitler came to power, Goebbels ran on populism. When Benito Mussolini came to power, he ran a newspaper called El Papel de Italia, 6 days a week. Propaganda, like Fox News. And I asked this gentleman, do you know about Fox News? And he goes, no. I'm like, it's like exactly what Goebbels ran and Mussolini ran. It's propaganda. And the news doesn't report what's actually happening. And he said, there's so many news outlets here in Germany. I was like, yeah. But people in the United States don't care about facts as long as it disagrees with their feelings. They ignore it. They only hear things that agree with their philosophy because we're stupid. When Hitler and Mussolini and Joseph Stalin, they were all at the same time. It was right after World War I. What happened? The economy across the world was in the toilet because of the war. Everybody was affected. So they ran on populism. Right? Blame the Jews. Blame this group. Blame this minority. Blame this group. Blame these people. Blame everybody. And he said, yeah. And they voted for them. What did Trump run on? Blame the immigrants. Blame the Muslims. Blame the Somalians. They're eating the dogs and the cats. Is a pilot black? How do I know they're qualified? Hey, if it's a black Supreme Court justice, is she an affirmative action hire? Andy Ogles did the same thing. He posted pictures of 9/11 when Mamdani was running. The entire world economy was in the toilet because of COVID-19. But Trump ran on exactly what his base wanted. White supremacy. He's a fascist. And, it's interesting. One of the quotes from Germany that we hear all the time is, first they came for the socialists, but I wasn't a socialist, so I didn't say anything. And then they came for the Jews, but I wasn't Jewish, so I didn't say anything. And then they came for me. And in America, first they came for the immigrants, but I wasn't an immigrant, so I didn't say anything. And then they came for the transgender athletes, but I wasn't transgender, so I didn't say anything. And then they came for gay people, but I wasn't gay, so I didn't say anything. And then they came for the Somalians, but I wasn't Somalian, so I didn't say anything. And on and on. And that's exactly what Americans are doing right now. There were stories that I read trying to understand why people didn't speak up. A lot of it was propaganda. They didn't have social media back then like we do now. There was stories of people that had farms and food shortages. One of the reasons that Benito Mussolini fell out of power was people couldn't afford food. They were living off of 1,000 calories a day. They had to buy food on the black market. And people in Germany were able to sell food on their farm. They made money. So they turned a blind eye to what was happening. There was many stories like this. And that's exactly what's happening in America. People are turning a blind eye to what's happening because it doesn't affect them. The No Kings protests. It's a white participation trophy. 8 million out of 340 million people. Because it doesn't affect you. I pushed a general strike for over a year. And Americans ain't going to do it because it doesn't affect them. That's how Hitler came to power. That's how Mussolini came to power. That's how Stalin came to power. That's how Trump came to power because it doesn't affect me. He promised them money. Americans are a horde of capitalism and they're fueled by white supremacy. And that's what he ran on. They're poisoning the bloods of Americans. 77 million people overlooked rape, sexual assault, felonies, infidelities, insurrection, not running to black people, dinner with white supremacists insulting our soldiers, being best friends with the biggest sex trafficker of children in the entire world. And they said, well, he promised me eggs. Me. Every conversation I've had between London, Paris, and Berlin, that's been the one common thread, if I had to pick it, was apathy. I'm not even a Democrat, but I give a shit about people. I voted for everybody else. I voted for universal health care. I voted to raise minimum wage. I voted to tax the shit out of rich people. I voted to help people with their college debt. I voted to help small businesses get started. I voted for everybody else in this country. And MAGA only voted for themselves because they're selfish pricks. It's the lack of apathy. It's the same thing that happened during Germany and Stalin and Mussolini. Trump is a fascist, y'all. Right down the street, there was a Holocaust museum. And in there was this dark room. And you just sit in there. There's one little speck of light in the corner. That's it. And I stood in there for 5 minutes. People spent months and years in some of these places by themselves. And the farmers stood there and say, well, I'm going to turn a blind eye because I can sell my corn. Because I have to do what's best for me. About a half a mile away, there's a Jewish memorial where it's got these, they're kind of like headstones, but they're like 10 feet long by 3 feet wide and they're varying heights. Hundreds of them. Every day when you drive by, you see them. It's to remember all the survivors of the Holocaust. Across the street from that, they have it's called the homosexual, like the victim memorial of the Holocaust, where he went after homosexuals. And there was another one about the Romas, and I think it was called the Hitney. And if I'm saying it wrong, I apologize. It was another demographic. And that's what he did. Trump is a fascist. He's building a bunker under the White House. That's exactly what Hitler did when he wanted to hide. And see, one of my favorite movies is V is for Vendetta, and he's in the newsroom. And he says, don't blame the politicians, blame yourself for turning a blind eye to what was happening, because it didn't affect you. You put these people in power, and you stood by and watched it happen. Hitler didn't do what he did in a vacuum. He had a bunch of people that were supporting him and stayed silent, while other people suffered because they didn't care. That's exactly what's happening right now. An entire political party. In fact, you know what? That's not true. We have two political parties that are allowing this to happen. I've got that from multiple drivers that I've been with. He's like, where's your opposition party? This was in London. Where in the hell is your opposition party? Where? Where are the Democrats? They're nothing. They're running campaigns for the midterms. We're in April. They're not doing a damn thing. And don't tell me the shit. Paul, what do you want them to do? They're not in power. That's crap. They could push a general strike. They could veto. They could hold up seats. They could stop voting for Israel funding. They could do a lot of things, and they don't do it. They didn't have to vote for the CR, so stop the shit. They're complicit in this in a different way. They are not the lesser of two evils. They are just as complicit. And the Republicans are just bootlickers. That's why I left a month after he got elected, when I left the Republican Party. Because the party no more had morality. That man was a human pile of dog shit. And all of you fake-ass Christians are like, praise Jesus, praise Jesus. The man is a literal rapist and a convicted felon and defends child molesters. There's a special place in hell for him, and it's right next to Jeffrey Epstein. And it sure seems like Americans are just going to wait till it happens to them. But you know what's going to happen? By the time it hits you, all of the people that are sitting by watching it happen, like the farmers during the Holocaust, it's going to be too late. Nobody's going to be left to protect you. You're sitting in your house watching your neighbor's houses burn with the hose saying, well, I have to save my water for my house. I got to do what's best for me. That's cool. But don't act like you're better. Don't act like you're not complicit. Martin Luther King is on many churches out here. He said, we will not remember the words of our enemies, rather the silence of our friends. Everybody that's not speaking up Everybody, you're complicit in this. Evil succeeds when good people do nothing. Although I agree with that quote, are you still a good person? If you watch evil go by and don't say anything, are you still a good person? Because I'm starting to wonder if you really are. I would argue that you're not. What kind of a good person watches by while we have children in concentration camps eating moldy bread and broccoli with maggots in it? We have 13-year-old girls trying to unalive themselves with plastic knives because of the traumas being caused. We have multiple people that have died. Women have lost their pregnancies. Little girls have been molested and raped in concentration camps. But I'm sorry, you can't protest on a Saturday because you have a football game to go to, a tennis match, a movie to go see. It's not your problem. That's exactly how Hitler came to power, is by that mentality. It's up to us. Don't blame the politicians. There's 340 million Americans. There's only, 100 senators? 350, whatever it is, congressmen? That's it. And you're letting that small minority allow fascism to take root, just like Germany did in the 30s and 40s. Trump is a fascist. And if you don't stop him, he's going after his political enemies right now. He's going to go back to the 2016 election. He's going to go back to the 2020 election. Anybody that did him wrong, he's going to sick his sycophants after him. And we're all sitting by saying, well, doesn't affect me. That's cool, but it will. And Michelle Obama told us that. If you don't think that the darkness will come to your front door. Now, let me paraphrase, because this is what I think she meant to say. If you think that your white privilege is going to keep you safe, you are sadly mistaken. And that's what white people are going to have to go through. Because it only seems that when shit hits your front door, do you care? When you're personally affected. That's why I started doing this. Because how am I going to call myself a person of faith and say, I love my neighbor as thyself, and watch people get treated like crap and sit by and watch it happen? And yeah, I've lost friends and family, and I really don't give a flying fuck. Because if you voted for a man that rapes women, you're a piece of shit. May you spend eternity with Jeffrey Epstein. It's that simple. If you didn't like Harris for some reason, then don't vote for her. But don't vote for a fucking rapist and say, well, he was the lesser of two evils. Because 5 officers died after January 6th. And those families will never see their people again. But hey, I'm sure it's okay because he promised you cheap gas, something that would benefit you. It's up to you, America. You want to be like Nazi Germany? Keep it up. Keep up the silence. Act like that shit don't affect you. That's cool. That's a cool story, bro. Good luck with that. Have a good day.